Hi, my name is Liz with Big Hairy Dog, and we're going to go ahead and get started here in just a few minutes. This is going to be a QuickBooks QuickBooks webinar for purchasing and receiving. We're going to be taking a look at QuickBooks POS, and I will be working on version 19. That's the newest released QuickBooks, but we're going to see it's similar practice for version 18, version 12. There's really not too much of a difference when it comes down to purchasing and receiving. So again, my name is Liz with Big Hairy Dog. We're going to be starting here in just a minute. Thanks. All right, so I do see we have a few people that just jumped on. And so again, my name is Liz with Big Hairy Dog. We're going to get started here in just a minute. I have a few more people registered than I have in attendance, so we're going to wait just maybe 1 or 2 minutes for those extra people, and we're going to go ahead and get started today on this QuickBooks POS webinar on purchasing and receiving. Again, this is Liz. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll be getting started here in about 2 minutes. All right, thanks for the patience. We're going to go ahead and get started here for today. Again, my name is Liz with Big Hairy Dog, and we're going to be going over purchasing and receiving for QuickBooks Point of Sale. All right. I'm going to be working off of QuickBooks version 19. It's the latest and greatest from QuickBooks, but if you have version 18, even version 12, you should not really see any big changes from the point of view of purchasing and receiving anyways. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of get started for today. Under purchase orders is where we're going to go ahead and start. Now, purchase orders are what we refer to as a planning document. These documents don't actually affect your inventory and can be changed pretty much at any time, and you're not going to go ahead and see any really negative ramifications other than, you know, if you're working hand in hand with somebody else, you'll want to make sure that they're on the loop, in the loop of whatever changes you're making. But I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into this purchase order. And right off of the bat, it goes ahead and assigns a PO number to you. A PO number is required but can be edited. You can go and edit this PO number to read whatever you would like or whatever makes the most sense to you. Vendor is also required. So we will have to go ahead and select a vendor for this particular PO. And that's about the extent of your required information. The rest of this is going to be, if we have it or if you'd like to enter it. Instructions down here, they're going to be vendor facing, and we'll print on any printouts that we create will be emails and on the emails that we send out, and they can be referenced on the voucher as well. The terms here can be edited by hitting that edit, and we can go ahead and enter our terms if we have any. We can edit our payment due date down over here. Over here at the very top, we can go ahead and select an associate. We can also add a cancel date. Now, I will say cancel dates, for those of you that don't use them, are lines in the sand, essentially. We're saying if we don't have this inventory in by this date, then I don't want it, and I don't want to be able to receive it. So we have certain people that actually do utilize the cancel date, but they still allow people to go ahead and receive against it. And we have other people that just choose to forego using the cancel date because, they understand their buyers are normally very much in contact with their vendors. And if there's going to be a delay, usually the buyers are already aware of that. Now, the order date and the ship date both default to today, but you can go ahead and change that and edit that by clicking that little button right over here. And we have access to that all too familiar date range and date view for our calendar. Now, getting items onto the screen. There's a few ways that we can go ahead and do that. We can either scan the items in if you have access to the barcode. Just a moment. All right, we have a quick question, and that's from Idra. Idra's asking if we use an online version of QuickBooks. And so QuickBooks Online is a viable option of using QuickBooks. Through this webinar, though, we will be focusing on QuickBooks Point of Sale as it's our supported software. If you have any specific questions for QuickBooks Online, feel free to go ahead and shoot me those over, and I can go ahead and try to address them in this webinar as well, but unfortunately I won't be able to go ahead and show them to you. We can alternatively set up a little appointment if you're interested, but the webinar itself will focus on QuickBooks Point of Sale. Sorry about that. All right. Kind of moving forward, we're going to go ahead and enter these items. Again, we can go ahead and scan them in. We can type in our item numbers, and that'll go ahead and find that item. We can use the Find Items, and it'll open up this additional pop-up box that allows us to go ahead and add advanced finding options. So we can go ahead and research based on UPC if we liked, or we can go ahead and filter our matching criteria just a little bit further. Personally, I really enjoy using my I want to button and then selecting from my item list. This is going to open up another separate little window that has my entire inventory, and I can sort this however I'd like. So I can sort that by item name, attribute. I can go ahead and filter it by on hand, and I have control over what columns are visible here. So I can go ahead and customize these columns and add whatever information is most pertinent to me or my buyers. So I really enjoy using this screen. And then with this screen, I also have access to my doc quantity field. So please remember that doc quantity refers to whatever document you're on. So in this case, it's referring to our purchase order quantity or our order quantity in general. On a voucher, a doc quantity would be referring to your receiving quantity and can be different than our order quantity that was on the PO. Unfortunately, there are a few vendors that are out there that will send you partial shipments instead of the whole thing. And so for now, I'm going to go ahead and add just a few items here. Let's go ahead and say 5 of these. And there we go. And I'm going to hit my select. And there we go. I have these items on my screen now, and now I can go ahead and add, oh, as a reminder, even here we can go ahead and sort within the PO screen, and I can go ahead and customize these columns as well. So if there's anything, again, that would make your ordering process that much easier, or if we're using any custom fields that you need, you want to go ahead and make sure that that is on the screen and visible. From here, we have a few options. You see when we highlight on a specific item, we have edit item, some quantity buttons, and then the remove buttons available. If you have pictures assigned, it will display here. I don't have any pictures in my system, so we're not going to go and be seeing anything there. But I can go ahead and adjust that quantity if I wanted to. And I can even edit the item here and edit my cost, extended cost. I can even fill out more item description. We can put in a last minute UPC. There's really a lot that you can do from within a PO that will stick with the item, but won't necessarily, but anything with cost and price, well, really cost, because that's what we're looking at here. Anything with cost is not going to override your inventory cost at this stage. So this is, again, that planning stage. I'm going to go ahead and say OK here. All right. So once I go ahead and have all the items that I want set up here, I'm going to go ahead and just save this. I can, of course, save and print. I can email this as well directly from within Retail Pro. And when, QuickBooks. Sorry about that. And when I can email them directly to my vendors. If there is a specific template that you want to use for your vendors. Remember that you can also manage different templates. We can have different templates default on different workstations. You can set those up in your workstation preferences. So for the sake of this webinar, we're not going to be diving too far into that. But again, please keep it in mind that it's an option if it's something that you'd like to learn a little bit more about. I would say, especially workstation preferences, those are pretty straightforward. Feel free to jump on in and kind of see what your printer preference is already set up to or set up as. And if you have any additional questions or you just want us to walk you through it, give us a call. We'd be absolutely happy to. All right, so for here, I'm going to actually add some instructions as well. And again, these are going to be prior to shipping. There we go. These are going to be vendor facing, so I do want them to give me a call prior to shipping, especially on larger POs. If it's going to be a very, very big shipment, I do need to make sure that we are prepared to receive that shipment. I don't want to, have it on a day where I'm getting other shipments perhaps. So we want to go ahead and coordinate that just a little bit. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and save only this particular PO. And actually, before I do that, I also want to go ahead and say, maybe I know that they're going to charge me a little bit of this fee. So I'm going to go ahead and enter a $25 fee here. And I'm sorry, I know my team viewer panel is kind of blocking that a little bit, but I promise it says 25. And we're going to go ahead and save only for right now. And there we go. And now I can access that from my PO list right here on my main screen. Got it here. And so you can see I have 2 POs I've created so far. This first one was incomplete, but the second one is the one that we're going to go ahead and be working with. And we can see that percent unfilled. So we are 100% unfilled. We have not received against this PO at all. We're waiting for the full shipment. I did create this other one just so I can go ahead and show you guys what that looked like. I do have 0 quantities on there, but ultimately that is that 0% unfilled. That's what we're looking for most of our POs. Hopefully they're all 0% unfilled and we can go ahead and retire them and forget about them and clean them up. I can even go ahead and I want to and delete this PO. I know it's not a real PO. I don't have any quantities on that. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. We're going to go ahead and delete that PO. All right, from here, from that PO list, I can actually choose to edit this PO. Again, I can go ahead and make changes up until the time I have to actually receive this. And so let's say that they told me it was going to be late, but they're going to give me a little bit of a discount because it's late. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and enter just a quick 10%. And so there we go. We have a quick 10% discount because it was going to be late, and I'm going to save that one more time. All right. The other thing I want to mention, because I don't usually get a chance to talk about it when we do our purchasing and receiving, just how easy it is to switch back to make a sale though. So if you're like, many of us in these trying times, you're probably wearing many hats. And so if you're at point of sale trying to ring up customers and also trying to go ahead and get orders across, make sure you're utilizing that switch to, and you can go ahead and hop from wherever you are to make a sale really quickly. And there we go, ready to go ahead and help out whatever customer just walked up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and use the Windows feature one more time, and I'm going to just jump back home. And I am now ready to go ahead and receive that PO. So it's been a little bit of time, and we're ready. And so, and actually, I apologize. I realized we used this PO to go ahead and reorder a bunch of existing items, but I didn't get a chance to show you guys how easy it would be to add a brand new item to this particular PO. So I can, one more time, just click that little drop down and then hit that add new. I can go ahead and say that I want to, and over here, add a new special order item. So using this I want to, for that new special order item, this is going to be an easy way to go ahead and add those items to the POs that we're ordering in advance or we're ordering for a particular customer. That's usually what the special orders are used for, but I do hear them the terminology can be or I've heard the terminology used a little interchangeably between a special order and customer order. But what I like to refer to it as, that special order is those times that I do not normally carry this item. I'm ordering it special for you, and versus that customer order is I do normally carry this item. We just don't have it. So we're essentially putting one on hold in advance and making sure we get you yours in addition to my normal order. All right. But I'm going to go ahead and actually just create that new item from over here. And there we go. It opens up this additional window for me, additional tabs, where I have access to everything I would need to create a new item, down to that edit and add styles. So I can create an entire new style all from within a PO. I don't have to create it in inventory prior to starting the PO. I still have access to all of my additional info. I can still add a new item picture, custom and history. Of course, we're not going to have any history on this field, on this tab, because this is a new item. But this is what it's going to look like whenever you kind of open up an item on a PO in general. You're going to have quick access to that history. So again, what's required for a new item, we're going to go ahead and give it a quick department. I will give it a vendor. I do think that it's best practice for everything to have a vendor. Item name, let's just say game day hat. Be very, very unique here. Item description, we can actually leave that blank. It's not required. Attribute, and actually we're going to go ahead and say for size, we're just going to do one size. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and bypass my on-hand quantity. I'm going to go ahead and enter a price here. So I'm going to go ahead and sell this item for $10. My order cost is going to be $2. All right. Let's go and pop over to additional info. I don't have a UPC actually, so I'm not going to go ahead and do that. Maybe I don't want to add an item picture at this time, so we can go ahead and leave it as is. And I'm just going to go ahead and save and select this. And there we go. We have my game day hat, and I can go ahead and alter the amount that we're ordering here. And again, you can go ahead and create entire styles from your PO, utilizing that add and edit style button. So we can go ahead and get a lot of items done relatively quickly with that style option. Now I'm going to go ahead and save that one more time. Again, that's our third time editing that PO. But again, we can edit the PO up until the point that we want to receive the item. And then let's say the voucher comes in, or excuse me, the items come in and we're ready to voucher it in. And when the items showed up, maybe our vendor also added a few additional items. I want to show you how to go ahead and reference the PO and how we can go ahead and add additional items to that. So when I jump into a voucher, it kind of looks like our receipt screen here, but it is a blank, ready to go voucher. So for a voucher, we do have to go ahead and enter a vendor name. what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and hit my receive from a PO. And I have this PO active. And so we have a few options here. Now I can go ahead and receive all due, or I can select items to receive. Receiving all due is just, of course, going to pull all of the quantities from that PO. Select items to receive. It's going to give me the leeway to go ahead and tick off exactly what we got and tell it exactly what our dot quantity should be. And remember, our dot quantity in this case is referring to our voucher, so that's our receiving quantity here. And so this is going to go ahead and, like I said, give me the ability to see what was due and what I actually have. And so let's just say that I have most of everything. You only got 5 of those, and maybe I only got 5 of those. So we got almost everything here. So now I can go ahead and see what my PO instructions were here. You see they're grayed out, but I could also go ahead and copy the purchase order instructions to my receiving voucher. So if I wanted that attached to the receiving voucher, all I need to do is just click that little checkbox. In this case, that was a little bit more for my vendor only, so I don't need it on my voucher. I'm going to go ahead and continue with this. So we have all of these items and maybe, like I said, a few more. All right, and here's that apply fee from the purchase order. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. If I put it on the purchase order, that was done in advance in planning for my voucher. So we're going to go ahead and say yes there. All right, and you can see also my discount is there. If I go ahead and jump into discount fees rate, I can see that discount percentage and my fee amount, and I have the option to spread that into the cost of the items on my voucher. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and close it. We can talk a little bit more about that in a moment. As you can see, I have all of these items already set. Now I can even go ahead and add additional items. So I can go ahead and scan any extras that they might have sent over. Let's go ahead and see. Do I have yep, there we go. So in addition to that, maybe they also sent us 5 sliding pans. Weren't on our order, but maybe I need them, so I'm okay. I'm willing to keep them. All right. And so from here, I can go ahead and, like I said, then jump into my discounts and freights. Now that I know that this is exactly what I'm receiving in, I have the option to spread this, and it will be absorbed into the cost of my voucher. So if I unspread that, you can see those numbers changing in the background, and it can be tracked and reported on separately. All right, for this, I'm going to go ahead and spread my freights right now. All right, and we're just about done for this particular voucher. So we've received from the PO. We didn't receive our full shipment, but that's okay. You know, I'm going to show you guys what that PO is going to look like. It's going to have a percentage fill on it for that unfilled. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and save and print or save only. If I get tied up or busy, I can put this voucher on hold and then come back to it later. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and hit that save only. All right. And then the cost of one or more of these items is different than the current cost in our inventory. And I want you to go ahead and, yeah, we're going to go ahead and review these prices one more time. I'm going to go take a look at it. And why is that? That is because I spread my freight. So all of those costs are slightly higher than what they should have been. So now we're going to go ahead and save only one more time. And then we're going to go ahead and say no. I'm going to go ahead and let that voucher update my inventory and average out my inventory costs. If you have any questions on cost averaging or what that math actually looks like, let me know. We can go and talk about it a little bit more. But essentially, we just want to make sure that everything is accounted for at the price that we purchased it at. For example, if we have 10 items in inventory that we purchased at $5 each, we're receiving another 10 at $10, there was a cost increase, then the cost averaging would make it so we had $20 at that, I believe it's like $7.50. So it will average out the cost of both of them, or all the items in our inventory, really. And then from there, we can go and continue to receive. So let's say another vendor actually did go ahead and send us some items, and we didn't have a PO for that vendor. No worries, we're already on a brand new voucher, so I can go ahead and start entering the items. I will need to go ahead and have a vendor, so personally I like to go ahead and make sure that I start with that because I will forget before I save. But we need to go and enter a vendor. And just like our receipt screen, it looks very similar. Again, it'll be up right on the very top, just like where our customers are on our receipt screen. And there we go. Now I can go ahead and either search or scan. I'm going to go ahead and do a few items here. All right. So we're adding just a few items to this and see no PO. We're just scanning them as they're coming in. We can go ahead and scan just the one and then edit the quantity on the fly. Let's go ahead and say we're doing 2, yeah. And then we can still add that discount fee and freight information. So let's say that there was a $10 freight on this, and I have the option to spread that or not spread it. I'm actually going to choose to not spread this freight. All right, and then I can add a new item from a voucher as well. They sent us something that we don't actually have. So let's go ahead and do all right. And we're going to go ahead and say this is kids apparel. All right, attribute is going to be blue. Again, I currently have the style button grayed out on this system, but if you did have or you use styles, you would be able to go ahead and add that additional style information here. Regular price, we're going to go ahead and say that one again, just $5, and we're going to go ahead and say it comes. People are going to get a really good deal about it. Oh, let me see about that. Sorry about that. So I edited my average unit cost. What I need to go ahead and edit is my order cost here. And again, this is going to average based on what I have in inventory. Really, for the first one, it's not going to matter too much if I let this be $2 or $1 and I received it at $1, then the average between the two is the $1. But over here is really where I should have entered that information. All right, I can add additional ALUs if I wanted. Remember, that's your alternate lookup. Add UPCs. I can also add this to a quick pick group directly from within a voucher if I had your group set up. So again, you have access to pretty much everything that you have within your inventory from your PO or from the voucher. I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. All right. And so I can go ahead and now save only, save and print, or again, of course, put on hold so that way I can go ahead and help out a customer and come back. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this for right now. Oh, there we go. I'm going to back out for a second, and I'm going to go ahead and jump into my receiving history. You might, if you're taking a look at some of our training videos online, you might see a few places where we go ahead and say former vouchers. We're really referring to that receiving history. All right, and so customize these buttons really quick. Want to add a few more. Okay, let me close that. Remember that you can customize these anywhere that you see them. So if you don't like the order or anything like that, be sure to rearrange and really tailor your experience here in QuickBooks. But I grabbed two of them. Well, you can see both of the vouchers that I just created right over here. And let's just say that we had a little bit of an issue with this particular voucher. So we had the packing slip when it came in, but as we didn't have it on a PO and we didn't really know that this was coming on this day, we just did our best and put it in as the packing slip depicted. When we got the vendor invoice a little bit later on down the line, we realized that the cost for my baseball my baseball team shirt actually went up just a little bit. So I have to go ahead and make sure I correct this. I have to go ahead and voucher it in at the proper cost. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that voucher and I'm going to reverse this voucher. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and it's going to be sysadmin. All right. Now, you can see this is a return voucher that was created. It's the sister record for my reversed receiving voucher. And so now that that's done, we're at ground zero one more time. Even if we have items that have sold from that voucher, we are technically now in the negative for those items. So what I want to do is make sure my inventory quantity is corrected and my cost is corrected. So I'm going to go ahead and take this original, and I know it's my original because of my type. It's a receiving type. The other one is a return type. So my original reverse receiving type, I'm going to copy this, and it's going to open it up in a brand new voucher for me. And really, what this saves you is having to create the brand new voucher, add the vendor to the voucher, get all the items on the voucher, get the quantities correct on the voucher, and then edit the voucher cost. It saves all of that time by just copying it. The vendor's there, items are there, quantities are there. Really, the only thing that needs to be changed is pesky voucher cost. All right, so now my voucher cost has been updated, and this $97.00 is correct. It matches my vendor invoice, and that includes the $10 freight. You know, my subtotals match up, my totals match up, everything matches up now. And now I can once again save only. All right, and there we go. Would you like to review and update prices? Now I'm going to go ahead and let you do this. And I'm going to say don't show this again. I'm going to go ahead and let you update. Now one more time, I'm going to jump back into my receiving history. And so we can see now, because we had to correct this voucher, we do have 3 documents that we need to go ahead and talk about. That original reversed receiving voucher, the sister record that actually does the return, and then our corrected final receiving voucher. And if we double click on that, we can see everything is the exact same except for that voucher cost has been, so now this item has been vouchered in at the correct cost. And if we had any on-hand quantity already, it would average out that cost for us. All right. I know it's a lot to go over pretty quickly, so I want to make sure there's no questions. If anybody has any questions, please feel free. But let me go ahead and hop on over here for just a second. All right, so we've gone through most of this. So our purchasing on our purchase orders, we have checked out looking at our inventory from the purchase order, creating a PO with existing and new inventory. Editing and deleting, we went over. We actually edited that one like about 3 times. Receiving, one more time. Referencing a PO without referencing a PO. Was fixing our mistake of adjusting that cost. Now, freight or fee information. We can also go ahead and add that freight or fee information, again, on the actual voucher. If you need to go ahead and spread the cost and you didn't spread it, or maybe we even forgot to put it all in, again, we're going to go ahead and correct that using that same reverse and copy method. And then we will be able to go ahead and enter that freight, fee, and discount information and spread if applicable. Item cost or quantity, that's the one that we actually did take a look at, that item cost, but it does work the same for quantity. Usually quantity, though, we do want to go ahead and train our associates to be looking for those discrepancies. Usually I would say I see most people run into trouble when we receive from a PO and we are utilizing that receive all due. The apply fee from purchase order, we actually already took care of that fee on the last one. I took the full amount, so I'm going to go ahead and say no on this one. So we went ahead and just received what was due. So you can see it's just the 2 from that original 7 that we needed, and then the other 5 from that original 10 that we needed. Now, there was no opportunity for us to go ahead and see that little pop-up that showed what our order quantity was and our due quantity was. And so without that, if I didn't remember, it would be very easy for this to be different than what I'm actually receiving in. So perhaps what they sent me was actually 3 and 5, and I was just moving really quickly. And so that's usually where I get one of the discrepancies. Or the PO, we actually ordered far more than what they sent us, and I went ahead and pulled the packing slip. Maybe, unfortunately, I didn't take too long to take a look at the actual items, and I'm solely going off the packing slip, and the packing slip is not quite clear that this is a partial shipment. So that's another big issue that we go ahead and see people having. And we have a quick question, and couldn't we just delete the wrong invoice and redo it? And so, yes, I can see why you'd want to go ahead and delete the invoice and redo it, but deleting the voucher is not necessarily the same as correcting the voucher, because we will still have that original voucher in the system, and they would still be received at the incorrect price. And so it starts to mess with the math a little bit when you get to that point. But if you're referring to an invoice as in like a receipt invoice, there's, again, still a little bit more math that you have to go ahead and do with it, because the process, again, is going to be very similar. It's like with the receipt, or what I refer to as an invoice, the receipts, if we made just a mistake and we needed to go ahead and reverse the receipt and essentially just start over, that is one way of making that correction. The other way of making that correction would be to do a return and then re-ring the sale as appropriate. And normally the difference between using the two is, well, one is just preference, and of course the other one is going to be when the mistake happened. If the mistake happened on a different calendar day, then I really don't want them to use that reverse button. I want them to go ahead and just do that return and kind of keep things in line for the math. For the vouchers, because they're all tied together, we would be able to go ahead and reverse a voucher on a different calendar day. But like I said, and then the other thing that it saves you is when you have access to the original voucher and you copy it, you don't have to go through the trouble of adding those items, adding those that vendor, adding those quantities. So instead of having to go ahead and redo it from scratch, you're just making the actual correction. And so that's the big draw to go ahead and reverse and copy. Is that you don't have to, there's nothing to redo actually. You're just editing whatever correction that needs to be done. And usually the more streamlined we can make the process, the more we're going to go ahead and not run into any issues. But thank you so much for that question. I hope I answered that. If you wanted me to go into a little bit more detail, I can. But like I said, mostly just saves us a lot of time and ensures that the math is always going to be correct. All right. And now taking a look at that, we still have our reference PO numbers here. And so we can go ahead and save only. I'm actually going to go ahead and put this guy on hold for just a moment. I'm going to come on over here to our PO list. Only because I wanted to I wanted you guys to take a look at this, that percent unfilled at 25%, and what your view is. So out of the box, our view is on our open purchase orders. If I open it up to all purchase orders, then you're also going to see the closed purchase orders. Or you can go ahead and set it to a specific filter, or even create your own filter for these purchase orders. I do enjoy leaving it on the open purchase orders, but if you do receive against the same purchase orders, which I've seen in a few places, it's not necessarily recommended, but if you are ordering the exact same thing from the same vendor every single week, people can build a case for doing that. But then it makes a few reports that utilize purchase order dates a little less effective because those dates are now inaccurate, really. But you just keep that in mind when you're taking a look. If you're looking for a purchase order and you're not seeing it, what our view is and what we're looking at. Close that for right now. All right, and then down over here under held vouchers, I can go ahead and see that held voucher that we just held. And so I can go ahead and unhold this voucher. And I want to, we still have access to that unhold, reprint, or delete. I'm going to go ahead and just unhold this voucher. All right, now from here, again, I can go ahead and save only or save in print. Just save only. And do I have my former receiving history in my windows? And we can see there's that second all sports voucher, and now that PO is complete. We are going to be 100%. We're going to be 100 or 0% unfilled. Excuse me. Sorry about that. We're going to be 0% unfilled on that voucher, and it's going to go ahead and leave from our open vouchers. So now if I go, or open POs, I jump into my PO list. See, I have 0 open POs. And there is my closed PO. From here, I can go ahead and delete this PO. It is important to go ahead and come in here and be sure to clean up the POs every once in a while. Not that, especially if we're defaulting to only our open POs, not that I think it's going to get in your way too much, but it will start to build up, and it is just a little bit easier just to stay on top of it as we're moving forward instead of trying to kind of play catch up a little bit later. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that out, and I'm going to bring this back up. Vendor billing information. So vendor billing information, it's actually a system preference that I completely forgot to check off to have access to it, but you can enter vendor billing information on a voucher. You can also enter it on a former voucher that I'm going to pause my screen for just a moment. Sorry for the delay. Be right with you. All right. And actually, for those of you who might not know where it is and need access to that vendor invoice information in your company preferences, under receiving, it's just a simple little checkbox. Enter vendor billing information in point of sale. We're going to go ahead and save that. All right. And it has to close the affected windows. I knew that was going to happen. That's all right. Let's go ahead and change my buttons. Billing info. And for right now, I'm going to go ahead and remove reports. Yeah, we can go ahead and highlight on an item. And you can see, so now highlighted on a voucher, I have access to that vendor billing information. I can go ahead and add that billing or that invoice number, select the bill date and invoice date, and I can choose whether I mark this voucher as paid or not. And this can flow right into my QuickBooks Financial if integrated, or it's usually what I see the most often. People are integrated with QuickBooks Financial already, and that's why they really want to have access to enter that vendor invoice information directly within point of sale, helps streamline the process and lets it flow right into financials. All right, and if I go ahead and hit that little arrow down, I can actually adjust any of these as well, right on the fly. Discard changes. For right now, I'm going to say yes. Okay, and so with that, we've reached the end of our agenda. Like I said, I know that there was kind of a lot to go over, but the process is pretty streamlined. So we start from that PO, from that plan, into the vouchers. And remember, the PO is a planning documents, optional, of course. So not everybody uses them, but I would say definitely is best practice. It helps, again, just kind of streamline things down the line and gives you access to a few additional beautiful reports. Oh, one final thing about purchasing that I didn't go ahead and mention earlier. For those of you who haven't tried it, would definitely suggest my Suggest PO. Now, I will warn you, in this data, I don't have a whole lot of sales going on, but we're going to go ahead and run through it because it's just so easy. So our suggested PO, I can choose to look at all vendors or specific vendors. And then I can go ahead and, well, really, they don't suggest any quantities. I'll do it myself. I can go ahead and bring quantities back up to the reorder point plus something. And so if you're using reorder points and you have reorder points on your key items, this is going to be extremely helpful to you. If you're not utilizing reorder points, then maybe this third one can be the most helpful. Order enough for the next 30 days based on the last 30 days of sales. And we can go and edit these days as well. So you can even say, I want you to order for the next 90 based on the last 90 or based on the last 30, really. Especially during these times of COVID, our current sales might be a little bit off, but still we can go ahead and kind of get a feel for what we're going to be expecting in the next 30 days. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK there. Sorry about that. Okay, so I just hit OK, and again, I don't have too much information, so my order quantity is suggesting zeros for now because I don't have a whole lot of sales in the last 30 days, but I do have enough to give me some negative on hand that I need to go ahead and get back up. So these are the items that it's just suggesting that I create these POs for, and I can go ahead and enter that order quantity here. So I want to at least get back to zero. I want to deal with all of these negatives. And really, especially this one here, that's something I'm going to have to look at. If I'm selling that many of that item, chances are either I missed receiving it and those items were just on my floor, or something similar happened. Maybe we accidentally deleted or reversed a voucher and we never finished the job of correcting it. So those items were again stocked without properly being received. But this is just a quick, easy way to go ahead and get suggested POs. And from here, I'm actually going to go ahead and enter a few quantities. So let's actually just do the one. These two are a little too big for my liking, and this one maybe as well. So I would want to do a little bit more research on these items, jump into their history. But for this one, I do want to order. So I'm going to go ahead and say create POs. All right, perfect. And this is one purchase order created. To show me the list or print a copy, I'm going to go ahead and unclick print. I'm not connected to a real printer right now. So I'm just going to show me a list. And there we go. And it'll list out all of the POs that were created. From here, I can, then further edit or email this out. And so here's what I ordered, but I can order more. And I can go order as many as I need to go ahead and get that, or to fulfill a minimum order or anything like that. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and close that and leave that as the new PO on my purchase order list. All right. And so again, that was from under purchasing suggested POs. If you guys haven't used it, definitely suggest going and playing around with it and seeing if you can go ahead and start automating the process a little bit more for you. And so again, my name is Liz, Big Hairy Dog. I'm going to be hanging out here for a minute. If anybody has any questions at all, please go ahead and feel free to shoot them over. But that does conclude what was scheduled for today for this webinar. So thank you guys so much for joining me. And like I said, we'll be around. Oh, and also this webinar was recorded, so if you had to get pulled away, we will be emailing this recording out to everybody who was registered. And in a few days' time, it will be available on our previously recorded webinar section of our website. And so please go ahead and take a look at that. We have a few other QuickBooks point of sale webinars that are really recent, and also taking a look at version 19. So if you're here just to kind of take a sneak peek at version 19, please go ahead and take a look at those other webinars as well. All right. So I'll finally stop talking for a moment and let you guys go ahead and ask any questions or head out for the day. Thank you so much. All right, I'm so sorry about that. So I do see we have a question. Unfortunately, I started answering it while I was still muted. So the question is, how do I save a PO with the description one in alphabetical order? I noticed that if I sort it that way, it reverts back to the order in which the items were added. And yes, and so with that, unfortunately, we do have to go ahead and do a little, usually we'd have to go and do a little bit of work with the actual design. And well, let me see. I'd like to ask, looks like that was, sorry, your name is a little bit mushed here. Dana Jones. All right, so I would like to ask, what version of QuickBooks are you currently on? I will go ahead and throw these on here. The last time I checked, I think that might have been oh, you guys are on version 19. All right, let's go ahead and do a little bit of test on this for just a moment. All right, the item name, save only, and there you go. Yep, and yeah, okay. And so I just wanted to go ahead and run through that test because I actually haven't tested that in this newer version, but unfortunately, yes, it will go ahead and revert. There's no way to go ahead and permanently set it to filter to description one. They did correct the filtering for when you print. So now when you print, it will listen to whatever you have set on the screen. But unfortunately, yes, you will have to go ahead, when you're looking at the digital copy, you will have to go ahead and resort that on description one if that's what you want to go ahead and do it based off of. It is trying to be more helpful, and it figures you want to see it in the order that you would enter it on the PO. But unfortunately, in your case, it's a little bit of a hindrance. So I'm sorry about that. But you know, if you do print them, they should be listening to that print job. And if you're experiencing the same issue when it prints, give us a call. We'll go ahead and take a look at that. I'm sorry, it wasn't a very helpful answer, but we'll be sure to go ahead and help you out if this part of it is not working. All right, but thank you so much for your question. If you don't have any other questions, or if anybody has any other questions, feel free to go ahead and ask. But I will be going ahead and ending the meeting in a few minutes here if we don't get another question. Thanks so much.